In this video, I'm gonna break down step by step how I edit faster using pre-built motion graphics. I have a second channel where I only do story content, and on this channel, I like to do a lot of history style videos. And a lot of these require digging up some archival footage combined with some different maps to really give context to the stories that I'm telling. Now, one of these videos is about an abandoned place just outside of Los Angeles, and it has this dark history around the people who built this compound that's in this valley only 5 minutes from some of the most expensive homes in the city. So for this video, I wanted to explore this abandoned location while also painting the picture of what happened here over the years. And a big part of crafting the story was using motion graphics to really give you that sense of what was happening at this location. And before we dig into the edit, I just want to say a special thanks to Motion VFX for sponsoring this video. Now, when I'm making this style of video, I don't want to spend weeks and weeks on the edit. I want to be able to get them done fairly quick, because when you're creating content here on YouTube, it's not about just making one really amazing piece of content and that's it for the channel. It's about making consistent videos over time. And so you want to be able to be fast while also having a professional look with the videos that you're creating. So that's why I turn to pre-built motion graphics for pretty much everything that I do on both of my channels. So let's dive into this edit, and I'm gonna show you what the finished edit timeline looks like, and I'll show you how I speed up my workflow using motion graphics, but also just my process of going through an edit. So this is my finished final timeline, and you can see as I scrub through this, everything is already built, and I have all of my A-roll, my B-roll, all of my graphics on top, and as I scroll through this piece, you can see there's a lot going on, and that's just on the visual side. And if we scroll down to the audio, you can see I have all my dialogue here in dark blue, the teal is sound effects, and then the green is music. So there's a lot going on in this edit. However, this edit only took me about a day to finish. And part of that was the workflow that I go through to be able to cut this kind of content together. So the first stage before I touch music, sound effects, graphics, anything like that, is just getting my main edit done. So the A-roll, the main story, and then I'll layer on the B-roll on top of that. So I have my A-roll sections separated out here so I can just show you how I approach this before I actually start pushing it all together. So for the first scene, I have me walking up to camera, I have my dialogue where I explain what's going on in the story, and I have some B-roll cut over that. And then after this, I'll have a transition to my next scene where I'm talking again. And so I'll cut a transition from the footage that I have, walking up the trail, going up to the little peak right here to see where I'm at. And then I'll go to the next scene where I'm talking to camera again, and then layering on the B-roll of what I'm talking about during that sequence. The first cut is supposed to be straightforward. You're looking for each one of the scenes that you went out and filmed, cut them together, have some transitions if you need a transition from one scene to the next, and then what you do is push it all together and make it flow. And this is how I approach every edit, because if you can get that first cut done and on the timeline, the whole workflow starts moving so much faster. If you're trying just to piece together little sections and you don't actually know what the full video is gonna look like, even if it's super rough, well, you're gonna keep getting bogged down on the little details when, more importantly, you wanna get through the edit as fast as possible, because once you get that done, you could see the whole picture of what you're doing, and then you go in and start tweaking little things and adding all the fun stuff. So this is what the final timeline looks like with just A-roll and B-roll. And you can see on my main timeline here, this is most of my A-roll, and then a lot of my B-roll is above it. I just work in these layers this way so I could see where my B-roll is versus my A-roll. Now from here, I go through and tighten up my timeline, make sure that everything flows, and then I start layering on the motion graphics and all the effects that's gonna make this footage really pop. So I use Motion VFX for all of my effects when I'm making my videos, and they have plugins and templates for Final Cut, for DaVinci, for Premiere, and they also have a lot of stock elements that you could use with any software. And because this is a historical piece about this abandoned place, I kind of want to have this kind of old feeling to the graphics that I'm going to use, and I also want to set the tone with these graphics. So I can go up to Final Cut and I could go to some plugins. Motion VFX has a ton of different plugins for different styles of videos. So if you just need some titles that are cinematic, well, Motion VFX has built some different titles you could use in your video. Or if you're someone who's creating something like fitness videos, well, there's a whole fitness pack, which is gonna give you a ton of content that's made for fitness and sports and just giving you a specific style. If you're someone who's making like travel videos, they have a travel pack which has a lot of different moving graphics. That's just gonna add these different motion graphics that you can use when you're making your videos. Now for this project, I wanted something that had that historical feel to it and kind of that vintage look. So there's a pack called M Series Classified. And this has a bunch of different pre-built motion graphics and different overlays that I could use to help tell this story. So if we go back into Final Cut, I'll show you what comes in this pack. There is a bunch of overlays that go on top of your footage, things like film strip or a blurring effect or some lens dirt, defocusing. There's also some different pre-built motion graphics which have different drop zones where you can add footage into these graphics. And then there's this section of scribble effects, so like arrows, X's, checks, outline, and then different typography that fits. And when you buy a pack like this, everything's gonna work together, so it's gonna have this seamless feel, but you could also customize all of these elements. So here's a section of my video where I have these maps on screen, and I wanna show where I'm at and what's going on. To the north, you have the San Gabriel Mountains, and out by the coast, you have the Santa Monica mountain range. Now, Murphy Ranch is located up a canyon that's only minutes away from one of the most affluent neighborhoods in the city. As you drive in, you're passing multiple. So I have these two maps. First one is a wide shot, and then the second one is a close-up of the region, and I want to point out what I'm talking about. So I'm showing the mountain ranges, and then I'm showing where this abandoned place lies. So what I'll do is, to make these maps just feel a little bit more exciting, is I typically zoom in and out. These are basically the same thing as if you were to keyframe your footage in and out. So first I talk about these mountain ranges up here, and then I talk about where the location is, which is down in these mountains here. So if we go to this pack, this is a great way to use something like these scribbles. I'm gonna add the cross over here. You see it creates an X and it has motion already to it. I'm gonna stick that up on the mountain range, and then I could go through all of the different parameters that make this X, and I could change them based on the video that I'm creating. So I could change the colors, I could change the thickness, the size, rotation, position, everything. So for this, I wanna scale this down. I don't wanna make it as big. I wanna add some thickness to it, so I'm gonna thicken up those lines. And then if I wanted to, I could change the color. So I could go to like a red or a blue. But for this story, I'm just gonna keep it where it was in the yellow. I actually like the way that looks. And then you have things like flickering and the animation. I could change it to smooth, or I could leave it on flicker. And then to extend the time, I could just pull on either side of this effect, and then I can make it longer or I can make it shorter. So I'll add the cross when I'm talking about those mountains, and then I talk about the mountains here. I'm gonna add an outline for those. I'll shrink this down. I'll do the same type of effect, so I'll look at where it's at. I can position on the screen, and then I could use these positioning tools on the screen itself to change how this effect looks. Or I could just do the entire scale, and then I'll do things like add the outline, make it a little stronger, and I could change the flicker, or I can make it smooth. And each effect is gonna have some different tools that you can use to modify that effect specifically. So now when we play this back, I have a cross up there when I talk about these mountains, and then I have a circle for the next mountain range. Now, the last thing I wanna add is some text that says this is the Los Angeles Basin. So I can go down to the text. I'm gonna use this typography 3, add it on top of all of this, and then I have text. You can see it right here. It's not really showing up on this map. So add the Los Angeles Basin, and then I could just grab the cursor and I can bring it over here into the corner where I want it. And then I'm gonna change the color because this font is not popping. So let's go to white, and let's bring up the size. And this isn't just text on screen. When I play it back, you'll see that it has an effect where it comes into screen and it actually changes a little bit. That feels more investigative or like a mystery, and everything in this pack is gonna have that feeling. So now I zoom into that section, and again, it's just a simple map with the canyon of where we're going. So I wanna use some arrows to kind of direct what I'm talking about. I say that we're going to this canyon and that this affluent neighborhood is right here. So let's pull the arrow, which has the same look as the other ones where it draws and then it comes in, and we're gonna change our rotation, and I'm gonna change the position of this arrow. You could modify everything about it so that it feels like it flows. Add the thickness so it's a little bit easier to see. I'm gonna add a second one of these, and then what I'll do is I'm gonna just rotate that around, the same type of effect. And so now I have two arrows on screen. One is pointing to this canyon and one is pointing to this neighborhood. And then I'm just gonna add some text. So I'll do the same type of text in the last shot. So what I could do is, because I want that white text, I could just copy the effect from the previous shot, add Murphy Ranch here, and then just reposition it. Now I don't have to redo all my settings because I've already built the graphic that I want. I just need to change the text. And then I might change the size a little bit and scale this down. So now when you put this on, it shows you where Murphy Ranch is. I'm gonna do the same thing over here and do Pacific Palisades. Then I'll go through and shorten all of these up. And now I've taken two maps and I've added a bunch of motion graphics, so it feels like everything's moving and you can actually see exactly what I'm talking about versus just having a still image on the frame. Let's watch this back one more time. So the city of Los Angeles is actually surrounded by a couple mountain ranges. To the north, you have the San Gabriel Mountains, and out by the coast, you have the Santa Monica Mountain Range. Now, Murphy Ranch is located up a canyon that's only minutes away from one of the most affluent neighborhoods in the city. As you drive in, you're passing multi-million-dollar houses. So in another part of this video, I talk about the history of the people who own this ranch. And instead of just me on camera talking, I want to lay out some of the information on screen. So under the typography in this pack, there's this kind of section that looks like a bunch of information has been pulled out or redacted. So I'm gonna add that in. Kind of has a cool look to it. And then I'll add in all my information. Murphy Ranch, 50 acres, bought by Jesse Murphy, but the actual owners are these two. And then so when it comes on screen, you can see that it has this kind of feel that it's like classified. And I'm gonna put this over here in the corner. So now when it pops up, information pops up on screen, kind of just fits the narrative of what I'm saying and kind of the mysterious aspects around it. And so with this pack, there's all these different styles of text that I use throughout this video. So it's big, bold text with motion, or like the highlighted text or the redacted text. All of these can be used in different places, and all of them are gonna work together because they're all built for this one pack. Now, beyond arrows and circles and text and all of that you put over footage, these packs also have motion graphics that are built that have drop zones so you can add in footage or photos, and then it moves automatically so you don't have to like go through and keyframe a bunch of motion. So there's this section here where I'm walking to where there was these big gates at this abandoned location. So I want to show some historical photos of what this used to look like, because it used to be these cool iron gates that would be the entrance to this whole abandoned ranch. So this preset number 1 works great because it has some motion graphics that pop up on screen and then drop zones pop right in front of each other, kind of like photos are being sorted through. So I'm gonna add in some of my photos that I wanna use for this section. What I'll do is in my inspector tab, you'll have all these drop zones where you'll be able to add different footage. So I could go back to my footage, and here's the different pictures of these gates. And all I have to do is go to my drop zones, grab one of these, and then automatically it's in there. And it has some effects on it. And you'll see that the photo is just full color, but when you put it in the drop zone, it actually has been desaturated, it's been defocused, and you can change all of these settings. And I could play with these and slide them to figure out exactly what I think looks good for this scene. So after about a minute or two of editing, this is what I came up with. So this is the location of the main gates. This is the entrance to the community. Now, when I started hiking here a few years ago, you could actually see the gates, but the Park Service removed them recently. I desaturated a little bit, I changed the color, but I didn't do the full black and white that the preset had. So with only a few minutes of tweaking this pre-built effect, you have something that looks completely different rather than just putting photos on screen. And to enhance this even further, I added some sound effects of a camera clicking every time that the photos were shown on screen. Now, towards the end of this video, I talk about the downfall of this ranch and what happened. Now, I don't have any footage or photos to show this, so I wanted to simulate it in a way that makes it feel a little bit more engaging than just me talking on camera. So this is the original shot. Authorities had been keeping tabs on Murphy Ranch, and as soon as the bombing happened, they swooped in and they arrested dozens, they disbanded the whole colony, and apparently they caught Herr Schmidt, even though there is no record of him being arrested or even him existing as a real person. So for this section, what I want to do is just show some visuals that kind of make it a little bit more exciting than just me standing here. So I got a stock shot of someone being arrested, and then I have the pre-built effect from this pack with a photo that I added in of someone that could be Herr Schmidt, but I've blurred the face, so it feels like you're looking at like a crime scene and this person was Herr Schmidt. Now, instead of just layering on a stock footage shot and this motion graphic, I'm gonna build some more effects on top of it. So if we go back to this pack, there's also all these effects like film strip and blurring, and I'll add these over the stock footage to make it feel like the other motion graphics that I've been building in this piece. So we'll add the film strip, and then I'll add some blurring to that as well. And with these combined together, it now adds a different quality to this footage. And I could go through and change all of my settings for this blur or for this film strip and really customize it to make it just feel how I want it to feel. But on top of it, I have this picture of the mysterious guy who was arrested. I'm gonna add X over his face because they caught him. So I'll use the same effect as earlier as this cross. I'll change some of the settings, and now between these two effects, I have a completely different look for this sequence where someone's being arrested, and I didn't have to go through and build any motion graphics. They're all from the pack, and in Final Cut, it's just drag and drop, and then I can keep going on with the edit.
Authorities had been keeping tabs on Murphy Ranch, and as soon as the bombing happened, they swooped in and they arrested dozens. They disbanded the whole colony, and apparently they caught Herr Schmidt, even though there is no record of him being arrested or even him existing as a real person.
And the process from here is adding some different sound effects that match the motion graphics, and then also going through and adding music. And so if you want to speed up your workflow and you don't want to deal with motion graphics, well, check out all the different packs over at Motion VFX, and you could see a ton of different options for all different styles of content. And I'll include a link down below in the description to where you can check them out. Now, if you're new here to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and next, check out this video right here, which goes through step by step how I actually write a script for a story like this that has this kind of mix of vlog, history, and kind of just exploration. I'll see you over there.